Izuku Midoriya is a useless whiny boy who doesn't have any superpowers in a superpower-filled world. He always gets bullied by a kid in his class and doesn't think he will ever be able to fulfill his dream of becoming a hero until he accidentally runs into the most powerful hero and is given a chance to fulfill his dream. A young Izuku Midoriya tearfully tells Bakugo that he'll never forgive him if he keeps bullying this boy. Bakugo menacingly asks if he's pretending to be a hero even when he's quirkless and he and his friends beat him up. Midoriya remarks that this was the reality he learned about society at the age of 4, and that was his first and last setback. Presently, Midoriya happily encounters a huge villain on his way to school. It all began in China and King City. There was news that a baby who gave off light was born. Ever since then, superpowers were discovered in various places. Before they knew it, superpowers became normal and the world has now become a superhuman society with 80% of the world's population having some kind of special ability. A hero named Death Arms suddenly appears and stops a tower from falling on the crowd before the rescue specialist. Backdraft forms a line of water to protect them as well. Midoriya tries to get to the front of the crowd, while two men discuss that the villain got cornered after stealing a bag from a woman and went crazy. A hero named Kamui Woods swiftly tries to take the villain down, but a gigantic woman called Minty Lady takes the villain down and introduces herself. I bet she's going to be popular. Midoriya explains that after an explosive surge in crime, courageous people started performing heroic acts and an official position for heroes was established. Midoriya quickly takes notes on Minty Lady, seeing which a man eggs him on and cheerily says he can be a hero. At school, the teacher says they should start thinking about their future plans and asks if they're all planning on applying for the hero course, so the class cheerily affirms this. Bakugo declares that these guys are all just extras because he's planning to attend the renowned school, UA High. He reveals that he aced the mock test, so he's going to surpass All Might and become the #1 hero. The teacher points out that Midoriya wants to attend UA High 2 hearing, which the entire class starts laughing and reminds Midoriya he can't just get in by studying. Midoriya hurriedly says they got rid of the rule, but Bakugo reminds him that he's quirkless and asks what the hell he can even do. Meanwhile, a slimy villain is charging through the city when a hero walks out of a supermarket and declares that everything is going to be fine because he is here. When school ends, Midoriya decides to write about the incident from the morning in his notebook when he gets home, but Bakugo mockingly burns it with his quirk and orders him to not apply to UA. Midoriya picks up his notebook from the pond, and in a flashback, a young Midoriya excitedly asks his mom to turn on the computer for him. He watches a video in which a hero smilingly saves 100 people in 10 minutes and declares that it's fine now because he is here. Midoriya happily says he wants to be like him too, hearing which his mom looks away. Later, the doctor tells Midoriya he should probably give it up since normally by age 4, he would have manifested his quirk, but an X-ray proves that he has no quirk. Later in his house, Midoriya watches a video of the hero, All Might, and tearfully asks if he can be a hero too, hearing which his mom starts crying and embraces him. Presently, Midoriya remarks that that's not what she should have said back then. Midoriya walks into a tunnel on his way back to school and tries to cheer himself up. The villain suddenly corners Midoriya and starts swallowing him so that he can take over his body, so Midoriya weakly questions if he's going to die. However, All Might unexpectedly appears and punches the villain away. All Might wakes Midoriya up and cheerily apologizes for getting him caught up in his fight, admitting that he usually doesn't make mistakes like this. He shows that he was able to capture the villain in 2 bottles. Stunned, Midoriya realizes he's All Might and hurriedly thanks him for signing his notebook, promising to keep it like a family treasure. All Might gets ready to leave, but Midoriya remarks that he still has many things he wants to ask him. He jumps off, but he realizes Midoriya is holding onto his legs. He hurriedly tells him to let go, but Midoriya says he'll die if he does that. All Might lands on a rooftop and tells Midoriya the people here will let him leave if he asks them. Midoriya asks him to wait, but he insists that he has to leave, hearing which Midoriya remembers everyone saying he can't be a hero. He hurriedly questions if he can become a hero, even if he doesn't have a quirk, hearing which All Might stops and slowly turns around. All Might suddenly receives a bout of pain and starts trembling. Unaware, Midoriya mutters that he's always made fun of because he doesn't have a quirk, but he wants to be the greatest hero like him and save people with a smile. He looks up to shockingly see a thin-looking man instead of All Might. As Bakugo is heading home, he unknowingly kicks the bottle containing the villain and declares that watching Midoriya pisses him off because he's got an idiotic dream. They decide to go to the arcade before heading home, but Bakugo shockingly turns around to see the villain in front of him. Midoriya hurriedly asks why he's so skinny, so the man reveals that he's All Might and spits out some blood. All Might sits down and asks Midoriya to not write about this online now that he's seen his true form. He reveals an injury in his stomach and says he got it from an enemy's attack 5 years ago. Half of his respiratory organs were destroyed and he lost his whole stomach, after which he's become emaciated from repeated surgeries and after effects. He reveals that he can only work as a hero for 3 hours a day, hearing which Midoriya shockingly asks if that was when he fought Toxic Chainsaw. All Might admits that's true, but the symbol of peace cannot be daunted by evil, and he smiles to trick the fear inside him. He says pro heroes are always risking their lives, so he can't just simply tell Midoriya he can become a hero without any power, so he should try becoming a police officer, which is also a fine occupation. While he's walking downstairs, All Might suddenly realizes that he lost the bottles containing the villain and sees smoke nearby. Meanwhile, 3 heroes arrive and shockingly see that the villain has taken Bakugo hostage. They try to stop him, but his quirk is strong enough to repel them. Bakugo angrily declares that he can't get caught by a lowlife, but the villain remarks that he's really hit the jackpot with this kid. Meitei Lady arrives to help but sees that she can't get in because of how thin the streets are. Kamui Wood's quirk isn't effective against the villain, and the other heroes admit they can only wait for a hero with a more substantial quirk to arrive. Death Arms frustratingly says he feels bad, but the child will just have to bear it a little longer. All Might wearily arrives and realizes he lost the villain because he was too caught up in his time limit. Midoriya is going back home and starts crying while reading his notebook. He admits he was averting his eyes and trying his best to not look at reality. He realizes he's reached the location where the smoke was coming from and wonders if he just unknowingly came here out of habit. He realizes All Might lost the villain because of him and overhears people discussing that the villain has captured a junior high student. He wonders how he's bearing the suffocation since he thought he would die after a few seconds. All Might frustratingly calls himself pathetic as he clutches at his wound. Midoriya desperately hopes that someone will arrive, but he suddenly sees that the junior high kid captured by the villain is Bakugo and starts running towards him. As he's rushing towards the villain, he wonders what he's even going to do and why he ran in the first place. But he remembers page 25 of his notebook and flings the bag towards the villain. Bakugo asks what he's doing here, so he hurriedly says his legs moved on their own because back then it looked like Bakugo wanted help. Shocked, All Might calls himself pathetic. Just as the villain is about to attack Midoriya, All Might, back in his pro form, swiftly protects him and blows the enemy away with a punch so strong it causes a tornado. Everyone watches in shock as it starts raining because of the wind pressure from All Might's punch. The crowd starts cheering for All Might, who turns around to look at an unconscious Midoriya. After this, heroes collected the scattered sludge and safely delivered it to the police. The heroes tell Midoriya off for being so rash, declaring that there was absolutely no reason to put himself in danger like that. Midoriya got scolded by the heroes, but Bakugo was mostly praised for how much he struggled against the villain, with heroes asking him to come to their agency when he's a pro. While walking back home, Midoriya remarks that he wanted to apologize to All Might, but he was still getting interviewed. Bakugo hurriedly catches up to him and reminds him that he didn't do anything to help him because he wasn't asking for help from a quirkless failure like him. He angrily leaves, but Midoriya remarks that he's still glad he did that. All Might suddenly appears in front of Midoriya and cheerily declares that getting away from reporters was a piece of cake, but he suddenly reverts to his normal form. Midoriya apologizes for what he did, but All Might declares that it was because of him that he was able to act. Top heroes have stories from their school days, and most of their stories have one thing in common: their bodies moved before they had a chance to think. Stunned, Midoriya starts crying and falls down as All Might declares that he can be a hero, and Midoriya tearfully remarks that this is what he wanted his mom to say to him back then. It's revealed that this is the story of how Midoriya became the greatest hero. The number 1 hero, All Might dashed onto the hero scene and received unwavering popularity because of his ability. Ever since he appeared, the once critically high rate of crimes committed by villains started rapidly decreasing, and he became the symbol of peace in both name and reality. He wanted someone to say he can become a hero, and the man he had always admired was the one who told him that. All Might declares that Midoriya is good enough to inherit his power, but tells him to go on and decide if he wants to get it from him. Midoriya seems confused, so All Might explains that no one has been able to quite deduce his power, and he constantly dodged the question during interviews with a funny joke, but the truth is that his quirk was passed on to him like a sacred torch. Midoriya mutters that he's never heard of something like this happening and starts explaining why that doesn't make sense, but All Might declares that that's nonsense because the power to transfer power is his quirk, one for all. One person cultivates the power and passes it to another person who also cultivates it and passes it on. It is the crystallization of power that spins together the voices of those who need help. He reveals that he's been looking for a successor, and Midoriya is a quirkless fan of heroes, but he was the only person who actually acted like one. Midoriya tearfully remarks that there's no reason to turn him down. He declares that he'll do it, but will soon learn that it's no easy task to inherit a power like that. 2 days later in the early morning, Midoriya desperately tries to pull a fridge with All Might sitting on it and collapses, so Midoriya reminds him that he's 274 kilograms. All Might says he's only 255 after losing weight, so Midoriya wearily asks why he's pulling trash in this junkyard. All Might cheerily says that's because he's not a fit vessel yet. Midoriya says that's the literal opposite of what he said back then, so All Might says he's talking about his body, his quirk. One for all is the fullest physical ability of many people gathered into one, so an unprepared body cannot handle it, because the limbs will come off and the body will explode. Midoriya asks if they're only here to exercise, but All Might reveals that this beach's coast has been turned into a yard for illegal dumping, so they're going to completely clear it out. All Might asks if he wants to go to UA and says that's not something he can do without a quirk, because that's just the reality and UA is the hardest course to get into. Midoriya sees that there's 10 months until UA's entrance exam, so he has to complete his vessel. All Might says that's why he's come up with a special training regime for him and will have him follow this in every aspect of his life. He worryingly asks if he will really be able to follow it because it's really hard, so Midoriya declares that he has to work harder than anyone else or else he won't be able to do it. And so began Midoriya's 10 months of hell. The teacher and his entire class catch him talking to himself one day about his training regime, and his teacher points out that he can't just get into UA with a mindset like that. Several months later, Midoriya collapses, so All Might asks what's wrong. He reminds him that there are only 3 months left and asks if he wants to take it easy and rest today. He says the training regime was made to make Midoriya good enough for the UA entrance exam, but he realizes he's been overdoing it and declares that that will have the opposite effect. Midoriya mutters that he can't just get in like that. He has to work a lot more than other people or he won't be able to catch up. But he wants to be the greatest hero like him. All Might happily says he understands that and declares that he will just adjust his plans now. At 6 a.m. on the day of the entrance exam, All Might shockingly sees that Midoriya even cleared outside of where he told him to and quickly catches him before he can hit the ground. All Might praises Midoriya and compares his body to what he looked like 10 months ago, declaring that he has become a suitable vessel. Midoriya says he feels like he's cheating and admits he's too blessed because All Might did all this for him. However, All Might says it was all his own hard work and says it's time for the award ceremony now. He plucks out a strand of his hair and tells Midoriya to eat it, explaining that it doesn't really matter what it is as long as he takes in his DNA, but they don't have much time now since the entrance exam is going to start soon. Bakugo arrives at UA and wonders if he really received All Might's power since he wasn't able to test it. Bakugo tells him to get out of his way, seeing which Midoriya remarks that he hasn't done anything to him ever since that day. Midoriya steps forward, taking the first step towards becoming a hero, but he trips and falls like an absolute loser. However, before he can hit the ground, a girl stops him with her quirk and cheerily asks if he's nervous before walking away. In the auditorium, the voice hero, President Mick, explains that the students will be in 10-minute mock battles after this. Bakugo sees that he and Midoriya are in different battle centers, as President Mech says different types of villains are present in these centers and students will earn points for each of them based on their level of difficulty. Their goal is to use their quirks and earn as many points as they can. President Mech adds that there's a 4th type of villain with 0 points that is very difficult to beat, so they should try to avoid it. He gives them all their school motto, "Go Beyond plus Ultra," after which the students are transported to the battle centers. UA is the most prestigious hero school in the country, and their acceptance rate is less than 1 in 300 every year. Graduating from UA is essentially a requirement for becoming a great hero, and so, Midoriya takes the first step towards becoming a great hero. Nervous, Midoriya wonders why everyone is so confident and notices the girl who helped him before. He decides to thank her for earlier, but a strict-looking guy asks if he's here to interfere with everyone else. Hearing Midoriya, the other students teasingly say they have one less student to worry about, calling him a wimp. President Mick tells them to start running, so they all charge into the battle center as Midoriya assures himself that it will be fine. In a flashback, when he swallows the hair, All Might tells him he'll feel something in around 2 to 3 hours, explaining that he's become a proper vessel, but that's still one that was made in a hurry and he didn't even get to take it for a test drive, so he should prepare himself for the physical repercussions it will have on his body. Since they don't have time, he just tells Midoriya to yell something in his heart when he wants to use his power. Midoriya encounters a 1-point robot but isn't able to move out of fear, so another student takes it out and runs away. Midoriya hears that there's only around 6 minutes left and hurriedly tries to look for a robot to accumulate points. He sees that the girl who helped him has already gotten 28 points while the strict-looking boy has 45 points. Watching the examinees, the teachers say this year's batch seems promising, but one of them presses a button, muttering that the true test is still to come. The gigantic 0-point robot suddenly appears in front of the heroes, so all of them hurriedly run away, and Midoriya tries to get away too, realizing that everything All Might gave him will be wasted since there's only 2 minutes left. He suddenly sees that the girl from before has her foot stuck under debris and swiftly charges towards the robot. The teacher explains that there is absolutely no merit in taking on that 0-point villain, but that creates an opportunity for it to shine brightly and rise to the occasion. Midoriya jumps up and smashes the robot away, completely destroying it. The other applicants watch in shock as All Might, sitting in the teacher's room, smilingly says the most important qualification for being a hero, the spirit of self-sacrifice, rises to the surface. As Midoriya is rapidly falling down, he realizes he overexerted his body and gets ready to use his left arm to stop himself before he hits the ground, but the girl from before hurriedly manages to save him with his quirk. Midoriya desperately drags himself to be able to get at least 1 point, but President Mech declares that time's up and Midoriya falls unconscious. The other students praise Midoriya, but the strict-looking guy remarks that they're missing the point because Midoriya jumped out to save that girl without hesitation, even though he was aware of the very little time remaining. The school nurse, recovery girl, arrives and heals Midoriya's injuries before asking if anyone else is wounded. 1 week later, Midoriya's mom asks why he's staring at his food like that, so he hurriedly says it's nothing, remarking that he knows he just barely passed the written exam, but that was cancelled out by the 0 in the practical exam, and ever since the exam, he hasn't been able to get in contact with All Might. Midoriya inwardly apologizes to All Might for not living up to his potential, but his mom hurriedly informs him that a letter from UA is here. Midoriya quickly opens the envelope in his room, revealing a projection device. In the video, All Might reveals that he came to this city to work at UA and wasn't able to contact Midoriya due to some personal work he had to deal with. He reveals that Midoriya passed the written exam, but he completely failed in the practical exam. However, he shows him a video of the girl Midoriya saved negotiating with the teachers at UA and asking them to give him some of her points since he rushed forward to save her. All Might reveals that UA doesn't just grade people based on villain points and asks how they can reject students who save others and do the right thing. Rescue points are the other basic ability the teachers at UA look at, and those awards are given by a panel of judges. After the totaling of everyone's rescue points, Midoriya got 60 points and the girl, Ochako Uraraka, got 45 points, so they both pass. Midoriya slowly starts crying, so All Might raises his hand to him, declaring that this is his Hero Academia. The results for all the applicants come out, and Bakugo gets first place with no hero points, while Midoriya gets 7th place with no villain points. The judges note that he suffered a very serious injury from a single attack and believe his quirk must have just manifested. That night, after Midoriya opened his acceptance letter, All Might contacted him. He hurriedly calls him, but he notices that there seem to be some people near them and quickly exclaims that he had the wrong person. All Might congratulates Midoriya on getting accepted and assures him he didn't tell the school about their connection with each other, before adding that he wasn't one of the judges either. Midoriya says he was surprised to see that All Might was one of the teachers at UA. All Might explains that he just happened to be offered a job from UA when he was searching for a successor. Midoriya realizes he wanted to pick one of the students at UA and reveals that his body broke with 1 kick and 1 punch after using One for All, so he can't control it at all. All Might says that can't be helped, since it's like if you asked a person who suddenly grew a tail to do a trick, they wouldn't even able to control it. He explains that right now, Midoriya is either 100% or 0, but once he can control it, he'll be able to adjust to what his body can handle, because the more you train a vessel, the more you'll be able to freely use the power. The people from before spot All Might, so he and Midoriya quickly run away. As they're running, he explains that the flame he passed onto him is still small, but in the future, it will be exposed to wind and rain and grow even bigger. And then he will slowly become weak and disappear and will finish his job. Later, Midoriya quickly dresses up and leaves for school, so his mom tells him he's really cool. Other than the 4 people admitted through recommendations, 36 are admitted via the regular exam in UA. Those students are split into 2 classes, with each class having 18 students. Midoriya slowly opens the door to class 1A and hopes he's not stuck in the same class as the scary people, and enters to see the strict-looking guy Tenya Aida asking Bakugo to not put his foot on the desk. Everyone turns towards Midoriya when he enters, and Aina formally introduces himself before asking if he realized there was more to the practical battle. He admits he had no idea and that he misjudged him. Uraraka arrives as well and is happy to see that Midoriya passed, so she happily says it's because his punch was amazing. Seeing him, Bakugo remembers how Midoriya said someone told him he could become a hero. The teacher arrives in a sleeping bag and says they're not rational enough. He introduces himself as Shota Aizawa, their homeroom teacher. He tells them all to put on their tracking suits and head out to the field. In the field, he explains that UA's selling point is how unrestricted its school traditions are, and that also goes for how the teachers run their classes. He says all of them should have been doing physical tests in which they weren't allowed to use their quirks, but it's not rational. He asks Bakugo what his best result for the softball throw was. Bakugo says it was 67, so Aizawa tells him to try it with his quirk now. Bakugo gets 750 meters, so Aizawa declares that whoever gets last place in all the tests will be expelled from UA, as All Might sees that Aizawa is the homeroom teacher and guesses that there will be a lot of suffering for the class. Uraraka argues that this is too unfair, but Aizawa declares that UA will be giving them one hardship after another for the next 3 years, so they should try as hard as they can to overcome these challenges. In the 50-meter dash, Aida easily wins, and it's revealed that he has engines in his leg. Uraraka can nullify the gravitational pull of any object she touches. Another student named Aoyama can shoot lasers from his belly button, but he's limited by how much he can shoot at a time. Bakugo, whose quirk is explosion, finished in around 4 seconds, while Midoriya takes 7 seconds. Midoriya frustratingly remembers what All Might told him about feeling how he can control this power. After several tests, Midoriya is intimidated by how badly he's doing against the other classmates and sees that everyone is doing well in at least one test. Midoriya slowly walks up to do the softball throw, and Aida mutters that things aren't looking good for him. However, just as he's about to throw the ball using his quirk, Aizawa unexpectedly erases his quirk to make him feel even more useless. Stunned, Midoriya realizes he's Eraserhead, the hero, who can erase other people's quirks by looking at them. Aizawa sees that Midoriya can't control his quirk and asks if he wants to become incapacitated again. Midoriya hurriedly says that's not his intention, but Aizawa says all the people around him will have to rush to his aid when he injures himself. He tells Midoriya he can't become a hero and returns his power. Aizawa wonders what Midoriya will do and remarks that he doesn't have any potential regardless of what he does. Frustrated, Midoriya throws the ball, but this time he concentrates all of one for all on his fingertip, only injuring his index finger instead of his entire arm, which shocks All Might and Aizawa. Uraraka happily cheers for Midoriya, while Ida notes that his quirk made his finger break. However, Bakugo watches in shock and inwardly questions why Midoriya has so much power. He angrily rushes towards Midoriya to ask what's going on, but Aizawa grabs him with his bandages and reveals that these are weapons made from carbon fiber woven together with metal wire made of a special alloy. He annoyingly tells them to not make him use his quirks so much because he has dry eyes. It's revealed that Aizawa can erase the quirks of the people he looks at, but the effect goes away when he blinks. Aizawa tells everyone to not make him use his quirks so much since he has dry eyes and asks who's ready to go next, as Bakugo angrily remarks that Midoriya was just a pebble on the road for so long. Once they're done with the tests, Aizawa reveals the test results, with the total simply being the amount of points they accumulated throughout the tests. Midoriya remarks that the only good result he had was the softball throw, and he failed at everything else because of the pain from his finger. Midoriya sees that he really did come at last place and depressingly looks away, but Aizawa reveals that he lied about the expulsion and that it was a rational deception to draw the upper limits of their quirks. He gives Midoriya a receipt and tells him to get fixed up by Recovery Girl, since there will be even more rigorous tests tomorrow. As Aizawa is leaving, All Might calls him a liar and points out that he punished last year's first years with expulsion, so for someone like him to cut back on his words, he must also have seen the potential in Midoriya. Aizawa sees that All Might seems to be supporting Midoriya and admits his potential was not zero. While eating, Midoriya remarks that he really needs to take control of his quirk and stop relying on others to heal him. He runs into Ida, who admits he was quite impressed by Aizawa since he didn't think he would encourage them like that. Uraraka catches up with them and introduces herself again before calling Midoriya Deku Midoriya, since that's what Bakugo called him. Midoriya says that's just something Bakugo says to make fun of him, but she cheerily says she likes it, so he instantly agrees to call himself that. The curriculum of UA includes regular, required classes like English. Lunch is at the main cafeteria where they can buy gourmet food, and then in the afternoon, they finally have basic hero training. All Might announces that this is the subject they will be studying the most of and says today, they're doing combat training. He tells them to get dressed in their hero costumes and gathers them all in ground beta. 3 weeks ago, Midoriya mutters that he needs to go to City Hall to get his quirk registration for the clothing allowance, but he's already registered as none, so he wonders what he should do. All Might says he can update that since there are cases where quirks don't turn out the way they're registered, so people are allowed to update it. Midoriya's mother arrives and says she made a jumpsuit for him. She sadly admits she was wrong when she apologized to him back then, but even then, he didn't give up and kept chasing his dream, so she apologizes and says she'll support him with everything she's got now. When Midoriya arrives in his hero suit, All Might starts quietly snickering because of how inspired it is by his appearance. Ida asks if urban battles will be conducted again here, but All Might says most villains appear indoors instead of outside, so for this class, they will be split into villains and heroes and fight 2-on-2 indoor battles. They instantly start asking questions, so All Might lays out a situation for them. Villains have hidden a nuclear weapon somewhere in their hideout. The heroes are trying to dispose of that and need to catch the villains or get the weapons back in the allotted time, while the villains can either protect the weapon or catch the heroes. The first match is between Deku and Uraraka as Bakugo and Ida, so All Might tells them to get ready but warns that he will stop them if anything goes awry. Inside, Ida notes that Bakugo seems to be especially angry towards Midoriya, but Bakugo angrily wonders how he tricked him. As they're memorizing the building structure, Midoriya admits Bakugo is amazing in everything that he isn't, but that's why he wants to beat him today, so Uraraka cheerily says they'll do their best. Inside the building, Midoriya remarks that he still can't control one for all, so he can't use it against anyone. Thus, they just have to win using the power they have now in Uraraka's zero gravity. He tells himself to remember all the notes he took and quickly pushes Uraraka away as Bakugo attacks them. From the control room, Kirishima complains that surprise attacking isn't manly at all, but All Might reminds him that they're in a real battle right now. Bakugo charges forward to attack again, but Midoriya reads his moves and slams him down, surprising the entire class. Midoriya reveals that he wrote an in-depth analysis of all the heroes he thought were amazing in the notebook Bakugo burnt and threw away, and declares that his Deku isn't always going to mean useless hearing, which Uraraka remembers what she said. Bakugo sees that he's standing up to him even though he's scared and angrily declares that that's what he hates about him. Since Midoriya and Bakugo lived in the same neighborhood, they've known each other since they were little. He was the type who could do anything he tried, full of confidence, and he thought he was really cool, but after his quirk manifested, it accelerated him down the wrong path. All men are not created equal. This was the reality Midoriya learned about society at the age of 4. Aida asks Bakugo where he is, but he just tells him to continue defending the weapon since he's really angry right now. Meanwhile, All Might tells the students that the heroes don't know the location of the nuclear weapon and have 15 minutes to find it. The girl points out that that seems too unfair for the heroes, but All Might points out that a hero's job is to turn the tables no matter what situation they're in. Midoriya swiftly predicts Bakugo's moves, seeing which All Might remarks that he's always good at reacting quickly in terms of crisis, and now it seems that his years of being a fanboy are paying off as it propels him forward. When Bakugo gets ready to attack again, Midoriya runs away since he needs to come up with a plan and stop fighting so aimlessly. Realizing he's lost, Bakugo angrily asks Midoriya if he tricked him and tells him to go on and show his flashy little quirk. Midoriya guesses that Bakugo is just running wild on his own and not cooperating with his teammates, so their chances of winning are lowest if they go head-to-head against them both, but they can win if Uraraka finds Aida and they both overpower him together. Bakugo remembers his and Midoriya's childhood together and angrily declares that he's just a pebble. He remembers how Midoriya tried to save him when they were children as well and furiously declares that he hates that face. Uraraka reaches the room containing the nuclear weapon, seeing which Aida tries to act menacing and reveals that he put away everything she could use with her quirk before they arrived. Midoriya runs into Bakugo, who asks why he's not using his quirk and questions if he thinks he can win even if he doesn't use it. Midoriya declares that he can do it because he isn't scared of him anymore. Bakugo reminds Midoriya what his quirk is and uses his costume to unleash a massive explosion, shaking the entire building. Midoriya questions if that's even allowed as Bakugo walks out of the smoke and tells him to go on and use his quirk, because he'll force him to surrender even at full strength. Meanwhile, Uraraka fights against Aida, who says her quirk isn't a threat if she can't touch anything and says he'll just hold out until the time ends. Kirishima insists that All Might stop this fight, but All Might remembers what Bakugo said and warns him that the fight will end and his team will lose the next time he uses that specific move again, since attacking on such a large scale inside is inviting the destruction of the stronghold he's supposed to be protecting. Bakugo continues attacking Midoriya and slams him down as Midoriya realizes he isn't giving him a chance to think, so he has no choice but to use his quirk now and show Bakugo who's boss. All Might remarks that he should stop them, but he doesn't want to for Midoriya's sake. Bakugo annoyingly sees that he still isn't using his quirk and questions if he's been underestimating him from the start since he'd never shown it to him before. Midoriya angrily declares that he wants to beat and surpass him. They both charge towards each other and Midoriya activates One for All, shocking All Might, who's about to stop them. However, Midoriya signals to Uraraka and punches upwards, creating a gaping hole in all the floors above them. Uraraka quickly takes the chance to attack Aida with Debrave and swiftly retrieves the nuclear weapon. Shocked, Bakugo realizes that's what Midoriya wanted to do from the start and questions if he's been underestimating him this whole time. Midoriya mutters that he wasn't going to use it because his body can't handle the impact, but this was all he could think of, stunning Bakugo. The students watch in shock as All Might declares that the hero team has won, time ends and Midoriya collapses. The students see that the losers are practically uninjured while the heroes are on the ground. As Midoriya is carried away on a stretcher, Bakugo is rooted to his spot in shock and realizes Midoriya predicted his attack again and questions if that means that even if they fought all out, Midoriya would still beat him. All Might pats him on the shoulder and says they should go review the results, since whether you win or lose, looking back and learning from your experiences is part of life. Standing in front of everyone, All Might says the MVP of this battle was Aida. He asks if anyone knows why, so a girl points out that it's because Aida adapted the most to the context of the training. From watching the match, it seems Bakugo acted on his own because of an obviously personal grudge, and attacking on such a large scale indoors is foolish. In the same way, Midoriya's plan was also rash considering how much damage he took while Uraraka let her guard down midway and her final attack was too reckless. On the other hand, Aida had prepared for his opponent's arrival and assumed it would be a fight over the weapon, which made him late in responding to the final attack, so the hero team won because they were taking advantage of the fact that this was training. All Might remarks that she explained it way better than he was expecting and acknowledges that that was correct. It's revealed that this girl is Nomu Yaoyorozu, one of 4 students admitted to the hero course based on recommendations. All Might says they should change locations and begin the next match and tells them all to keep this training in mind. In the next match, Ojiro and Hagakure face off against Shoji and Todoroki, but Todoroki instantly freezes the entire building and retrieves the nuclear weapon before unfreezing the building. The students watch in shock as they easily win, and it's revealed that Todoroki was another one of the 4 admitted through recommendations. His quirk is half cold, half hot. He freezes with his right side and burns with his left, but the range of his ability is unknown. After all the matches are done, All Might says they all did good work since they didn't get any injuries other than Midoriya. He tells them to change and return to the classroom while he reviews Midoriya's condition and runs off. He quickly returns to the staff room, remarking that he barely has enough time if he teaches a class. Recovery Girl questions why Midoriya has been in the hospital 3 times already and tells All Might she can't completely heal him at once, so they'll have to wait for after the IV is finished to allow him to heal completely overnight. She asks why he didn't stop them when he's passed down his powers to him, so he hurriedly asks her to not talk about One for All so loudly, remarking that his injury and this form are common knowledge among the UA teachers and a certain group of pros, but the secret of his quirk, One for All, is known only to her, the principal, a close friend of his, and Midoriya. Recovery Girl asks if being the symbol of peace is so important, so he mutters that society will be seized by evil if he stops. That is the responsibility of those of them with power. Midoriya wakes up and sees that it's late afternoon, so Recovery Girl lets him go for now and tells him to come back again tomorrow. He remarks that he ended up skipping his afternoon classes again, so Aizawa is going to bind him with those bandages now. When he enters the class, a group of students surround him and happily praise him for going toe-to-toe with Bakugo. They introduce themselves as Eijiro Kirishima, Hantasero, Yuga Aoyama, Mina Ashido, Tsuiwasui, and Sato, as well as Minena. Tokoyami is sitting on a desk and mutters at their being too loud before Ida tells him to sit on his chair and announces that he cannot condone actions that disrespect the desks. Midoriya sees that Bakugo isn't sitting in his chair and hurries down after the others reveal that he just up and left. Midoriya stops him and slowly reveals that his quirk is something he received from someone else. On top of that, he can't control it properly since it's just a borrowed power he hasn't made his own yet. That's why he tried to beat him without using it, but he wasn't able to do it in the end, so he vows that he will make this quirk his own one day and beat him with his own power. Bakugo asks what nonsense he's spouting and admits he lost to him today. When he saw Todoroki freeze the entire building, he ended up agreeing with what Yoyorozu said about using large-scale attacks indoors. In tears, he angrily tells Midoriya he's just getting started and will become #1 soon so he won't beat him again. All Might suddenly appears and tells Bakugo he definitely has the abilities needed to become a pro. However, Bakugo tells him to let go and declares that he will become a hero that surpasses him. As he walks away, All Might sees that he's already gotten over it and inwardly admits it's hard being a teacher. All Might asks Midoriya what he was talking to Bakugo about, hearing which Midoriya instantly becomes flustered. Reporters surround students from UA and ask several questions about All Might, so Ida says All Might made him recognize anew that he attends an economic institution that is the best of the best. Of course, his character and dignity go without saying, but students like them are also able to see his humorous side. Hearing him go on bores the reporters, so they try talking to the others, but Aizawa suggests that they leave since they're disturbing the classes. A reporter tries to get in, but a metal barrier that keeps everyone without a pass out instantly activates. The news that All Might had been hired as a teacher at UA surprised the nation, and the media descended on the school and caused a commotion for days. In class, Aizawa tells everyone they did good work in yesterday's training since he watched the footage. He sees that Midoriya settled it by breaking his arm again and reaffirms that he can't just continue like this, so as long as he fixes the control issue, there's a lot more he'd be able to do. He apologizes for the late notice and is about to inform them of something, so all the students instantly wonder if he's taking another surprise test. However, he says he wants them to decide on a class representative, and they simultaneously sigh in relief. Everyone raises their hands to become the next representative, but Ida suggests that they hold an election, and Aizawa says they can do whatever they want as long as they decide it by the end of the class. Surprisingly, Midoriya receives 3 votes and Ida doesn't receive any since he didn't vote for himself either. Thus, Midoriya becomes class representative and Yoyorozu becomes deputy class representative. During lunch, Midoriya admits he's not sure he can do it even though he's been chosen to be a class representative, so Ida says it'll be alright since Midoriya's critical and straight thinking during critical moments makes him worth following, which is why he voted for him too. Uraraka takes note of Ida's vocabulary and asks if he's a rich boy, so he sighs and reveals that he's from a family with a long line of heroes. He asks if they know of the hero Ingenium, and Midoriya instantly recognizes him, so Ida proudly declares that that's his older brother. He set his sights on becoming a hero because he wants to be like his brother, but it is still too soon for him to lead others, and unlike him, Midoriya realized the practical portion of the entrance exam, so he is more suitable for the job. They realize this is the first time they've seen Ida smiling, and Midoriya remarks that Ingenium is to Ida what All Might is to him. He's about to tell them the truth about his actions during the entrance exam, but the alarm suddenly sounds as there's been a level 3 security breach. The students try evacuating, but that causes a huge crowd in the halls. Ida squeezes towards the windows and sees that the reporters are the ones who have trespassed. They defiantly tell Aizawa they'll leave if All Might just gives them a brief comment, so Mike sneakily asks Aizawa if they should just get rid of them since they're breaching school property. However, Aizawa stops him and says they should wait for the police. Seeing everyone panicking and pushing each other, Ida wonders what Midoriya or his brother would have done in a situation like this. He asks Uraraka to make him float and uses his engine to get above the exit door. He announces that there's no need to panic because it's just the media. He reminds them that this is UA, so they should act in a way befitting the best of the best. The students calm down and the police arrives to take the reporters away. Later in the class, Midoriya says he thinks Ida should be the class representative after all because of how he was able to get the others' attention so easily and calm them all down. The others agree that he would be good too, so Ida stands up, saying it can't be helped since the class rep has nominated him. He promises to do his best from this day forth, and the others cheer for him. Later, the president sees that the school's barrier was destroyed and questions how ordinary members of the press were able to do something like this. He believes someone instigated this and wonders if this was intended to be a declaration of war. The villain warns the heroes to not come any closer if they don't want him to kill his family, but All Might swiftly takes it down and rushes to the scene of another hit and run. He realizes he's getting slower and remarks that after he gave Midoriya one for all, his powers have been weakening. On top of that, after forcing himself that time, the time he can spend in this form has gotten even shorter than already was. He remembers how Midoriya said he felt like he just had to tell Bakugo he received his quirk from someone. All Might asked him to not do it again since luckily, Bakugo didn't seem to take it seriously. He tells him to think about what having this power means if word gets out. It's clear that the world would be teeming with those trying to steal the power from him, so the knowledge should be kept a secret to prevent chaos in society, and for his sake. Presently, All Might remarks that even if he is a suitable vessel, he's still a 15-year-old boy. Later, Aizawa announces that today's hero basic training has turned into a class with 3 teachers, him, All Might, and another instructor. He reveals that they will be doing rescue training today, but they can decide whether they want to wear their costume this time or not since there are costumes that limit their abilities as well. He tells them to get ready since the training will be taking place off campus, so Midoriya remarks that this is training that will get him one step closer to becoming a hero. Uraraka asks where Midoriya's costume is since he's wearing the PE tracksuit, so he says it got ripped during training and he's waiting for the support company to fix it. Ida blows a whistle and tells everyone to form 2 lines so that they can make boarding the bus go smoothly. While they're on the bus, Azui points out that Midoriya's quirk is like All Might's. Kirishima says All Might doesn't get hurt when he uses his, they kind of just look the same. Kirishima says it's still nice to have a single, augmenting quirk since it lets you do all kinds of flashy stuff, is hardening, is strong against others, but it doesn't look like much. Midoriya says he thinks it's cool since it looks like a quirk that can definitely pass as a pros. Kirishima says in terms of being flashy and strong, Todoroki and Bakugo are the best. Azui points out that Bakugo always seems to be mad, so it doesn't look like he'll be very popular. Kaminari says it's amazing that people can already tell Bakugo's personality is trash since they haven't known each other for very long. Midoriya can't believe that Bakugo is being teased before Aizawa tells them to stop messing around since they've arrived. They get out of the bus to meet the space hero, 13, a gentlemanly hero who has rescued tons of people from disasters. 13 says they should go in, and the students are surprised by the different kinds of environmental situations simulated in the grounds. 13 says this is a training ground made with different types of accidents and disasters. It's called the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ. The students are stunned to hear that they really are in USJ. Aizawa asks where All Might is, so 13 says it looks like he did too much hero work before arriving and will have to rest for a bit. Before they begin, 13 says she has some things to tell them and explains that she's sure they know her quirk is Black Hole. She can suck up everything and turn it into dust, but is also a power that can kill easily. She asks them to not forget that in a superhuman society, there are many quirks that can easily kill with one wrong step. With Aizawa's test, they found out the possibility of their own hidden powers, and with All Might's combat training, they experienced the danger of using those powers against others. In this class, they will learn how to save people's lives, and she hopes they leave here with the understanding that their fundamental job is to protect others. Aizawa is about to begin class, but the lights inside suddenly go out. A portal opens below them, seeing which a couple of students get excited, but Aizawa urgently tells them to gather around and stop moving and puts on his goggles, alarming Midoriya. Aizawa says these are villains, shocking the students, and sees that these are the scumbags who helped infiltrate the school the other day. The villain sees that only Aizawa and 13 are here, even though the schedule they received stated that All Might was here too. He mutters that he went through the trouble of bringing this entire crowd of villains too, and was hoping to see the symbol of peace here. Yoirozu asks about the trespassing censors, but Todoroki points out that they specifically attacked when the class was on a scheduled trip away from the school, so they're not just dumb thugs and have some goal in mind. Aizawa tells 13 to stop evacuating the students and call the school since it's possible someone with radio wave type powers is interfering. He tells Kaminari to try doing that too, but Midoriya asks what he'll do since there are too many of them here, and even if he erases their quirks, Eraserhead's fighting style is capturing after erasing the enemy's quirk. However, Aizawa says you can't just be a hero with one trick and jumps down. Arrogant, the criminals get ready to beat Aizawa up, believing he's just another hero, but he swiftly starts taking them all down as they realize he's good in close combat too. The man mutters that he hates pro-heroes since the masses don't stand a chance against them. As the students hurry away, Midoriya sees that Aizawa is really good in close combat too. As they're running, a villain appears in front of them, annoying Aizawa and asks if the symbol of peace. All Might isn't here right now. Bakugo and Kirishima rush forward to attack him, but he declares that his job is to scatter them all and surrounds them with his gaseous body, shocking them. A portal opens and Midoriya drops into a lake. He tries to swim up to the surface and wonders what the villains are trying to do. A villain charges towards Midoriya to attack him, but before he can do so, Aizawa suddenly kicks the villain away and rushes up to the surface with Midoriya. She drops him and Mineta onto a ship near them using her tongue and climbs up, as well as it's revealed that her quirk is frog and she can do anything a frog can. Remembering what the villain said about All Might, Midoriya believes they knew UA's schedule and probably must have set up the media intrusion the other day to get the information they needed. Mineta says there's no way they'll be able to kill All Might, but Asui suggests that they might have some way of dealing with All Might since they're so confident. They suddenly see a ton of villains cornering their ship and Midoriya admits Asui might be right. He wonders why they're after him and if it's because he's the one and only symbol of peace. Midoriya thinks about everything All Might did for him and declares that if those guys truly have a way of defeating All Might, then right now, they should be stopping what they're planning by fighting and winning. In the landslide zone, Todoroki swiftly freezes a villain, muttering that it's embarrassing to be defeated by a child, so he should get their act together. Kirishima and Bakugo swiftly defeat some villains in the collapse zone while Yoirozu, Jiro, and Kaminari are in the mountain zone. Ojiro is in the fire zone alone while Tokoyami and another student are in the squall zone and the remaining students are with 13. All Might sees that he can't reach 13 or Aizawa and admits he's neglecting his duties, whatever the reason. He decides to go say something at the end since he can transform into his superhero form for another 10 minutes. All Might decides to go, but Principal Nezu arrives and tells him to stop. He shows him today's news about him and says he shouldn't react every time he hears of an accident since he insists on remaining the symbol of peace. The only way he can keep the world from finding out about him is for him to come here, which is why he suggested that he become a teacher. He tells All Might to stay here and listen to his theories and he'll have to return after 10 minutes if he heads to USJ, so All Might remarks that what's annoying him most is that he can't connect with Aizawa or 13 at all. I wonder why they're not answering their WhatsApp messages. Standing in front of the teleportation villain, the students wonder what they should do since physical attacks don't affect him. 13 says she's trusting Ida to run to UA and get help. The alarms aren't sounding here. They don't have any signal, so they must have someone with an interference quirk who hid right when they arrived. Ida says it would be a disgrace to leave everyone here, but they assure him that it's fine, and 13 tells him to use his quirk to save others. The villain asks what kind of idiots discuss their plans in front of their enemy, but 13 says it doesn't matter whether he knows and absorbs him using her quirk. Mineta hurriedly tells Midoriya they should wait for some help, but Midoriya sees that the villains are clearly assuming they'll fight in the water and wonders if that means they knew what was in USJ before they attacked. He mutters that if that's the case, it seems weird for them to send Asui to a zone like this, which means the villains probably don't know what their quirks are. Asui realizes they would have thrown her into the fire zone if they knew what her quirk was. Asui explains everything she can do, and Midoriya admits she's really strong since he has super strength, but he's pretty much out of commission if he uses that. Mineta reveals that his quirk lets him stick these balls he can pull out of his hair. Seeing their expression, he says that's why he was saying they should wait. His quirk is totally useless. However, Midoriya says it's really useful. The villains destroy their boat, and it slowly starts to sink, so Midoriya sees that they're trying to stay away from Mineta's balls. As the villains wait for the ship to drop into the water, Midoriya angrily jumps out of the ship and uses his fingers to attack the water. Asui jumps away with Mineta and Midoriya, so Mineta hurriedly throws his balls into the water. The balls make all the enemies stick together, and they all get sucked into the vortex as Asui mutters that it seems they've cleared the first hurdle. As they walk out of the lake, Asui says they should try to head towards the exit, but Midoriya mutters that he thinks Aizawa overexerted himself by jumping into that crowd of villains to save them. He assures that he's not trying to jump in and just get in the way, but they can try to lessen his load a little. Todoroki freezes all the villains and says they all just look people who have quirks but don't know what to do with them. He remarks that at first glance, he thought the League of Villains had brought their elite villains, but a closer look shows that the pawns they prepared for them were just a bunch of thugs, and from what he saw, there were only 4 or 5 actually dangerous-looking people. He warns the thugs that their cells will die if they stay here and asks on what basis they think they can kill All Might to learn their plan. Meanwhile, Jiro tells Kaminari to use his electricity to fight, but he says he can only discharge it, so if he attacks, he'll hit them both too. In that case, Kaminari decides to use him as a stun gun and electrocutes the thugs by throwing her at them. It's revealed that Jiro's quirk is Earphone Jack. She can amplify and send her own explosively loud heartbeats by inserting her plugs, and she can also catch very quiet sounds. Yoirozu suddenly creates an insulation sheet that covers her and Jiro, so Kaminari fully unleashes his electricity. It's revealed that Yoirozu can create any non-living thing using her extensive knowledge, while Kaminari's quirk is electricity. When he goes over his watt limit, his brain short-circuits and he becomes a huge idiot for a while. The main villain charges towards Aizawa and grabs his elbow, after which it slowly starts to crumble. Aizawa hurriedly gets away as the man reveals that whenever Aizawa's hair falls down, he stops using his quirk and blinks. Aizawa hurriedly takes down the other villains and activates his quirk against the man, but he mutters that he's not the main villain as the huge monster suddenly appears behind Aizawa. As 13 is sucking in the man, he suddenly opens another warp behind her and turns her back into dust. Seeing this, Aida rushes towards the gate to go get All Might. The man hurriedly rushes after him, but Shoji catches him using his arms. Meanwhile, the monster slams Aizawa down as the man declares that this is the anti-symbol of peace, the bio-engineered Nomu. When the man escapes from Shoji, Guraraka quickly uses her quirk on his collar and makes him float up before Sero and Sato throw him away and allow Aida to get away, after which Aida rushes towards UA. Midoriya, Mineta, and Asui watch in shock from the lake as Nomu breaks Aizawa's hand and slams his face down. The teleportation guy, Kurojuri, informs the man, Tomura Shigaraki, that one of the students was able to get away. Shigaraki frustratingly tells Kurojuri he would have killed him if he wasn't a warp gate. He admits it's game over this time since they can't win against a ton of pro heroes. Midoriya wonders what they mean by this, since if they leave like this, UA will just beef up their security. Shigaraki mutters that before they leave, they should smash some of UA's pride. He suddenly rushes towards Asui and gets ready to touch her. Stunned, Midoriya slowly turns towards him, imagining Asui turning to dust like how Aizawa's elbow decayed. However, Aizawa desperately uses his Erasure on Shigaraki, so Nomu slams his face down. Midoriya desperately rushes towards Shigaraki and punches him, causing the thugs near them to be blown back by the impact. Midoriya realizes his arm wasn't broken and he was finally able to get a good punch in. However, he shockingly sees that he punched Nomu, who was unaffected by the attack. Nomu grabs Midoriya's arm and gets ready to attack him, so Asui hurriedly tries to catch Midoriya with her tongue, seeing which Shigaraki rushes to use his quirk on her. However, before they're able to do anything, the door to USJ is suddenly thrown wide open and All Might slowly enters, declaring that it will be fine now because he is here. All Might slowly enters and rips off his tie, remarking that he had a bad feeling, so he rushed here and passed Aida on the way. The fact that his juniors and the students had to face this infuriates him. Stunned, Midoriya sees that he isn't smiling this time as All Might angrily stares at the villains. All Might instantly defeats the thugs and picks up Aizawa before rescuing Midoriya, Mineta, and Asui too. He tells them to head to the entrance, and that he'll leave Aizawa to them. Midoriya hurriedly warns him that it doesn't work, but All Might assures him that it's fine now. Shigaraki slowly picks up a hand that got knocked away when All Might rushes past him and mutters that he's so fast he can't follow him with his eyes, but he wasn't as fast as he thought, so the rumor that he's getting weaker might be true. All Might and Nomu start fighting and All Might slams Nomu to the ground. As Midoriya, Mineta, and Asui are walking away, Midoriya remarks that it's possible they have some way to kill All Might, but all he can do right now is trust him. He inwardly says he remembers eating the news this morning and seeing 13 whisper to Aizawa confirmed his suspicion that All Might overused his power and was at his limit, which is why he couldn't take their class. As the dust clears, the students are shocked to see that Nomu has grabbed All Might by making one half of him appear from another warp. All Might hurriedly tries to free himself as Kurojuri explains that All Might is too fast to see with the naked eye, so restraining him was Nomu's job, and once they can get All Might inside the portal, tearing him into half is his job. Midoriya asks Asui to take Aizawa for him and desperately rushes towards All Might, inwardly exclaiming that there are a lot of things he still has to learn from him. Before he can reach him, Kurojuri gets ready to absorb Midoriya into his portal, but Bakugo suddenly blasts him with an explosion and grabs his collar before Todoroki freezes Nomu's lower body. Thanks to that, Nomu's grip loosens and All Might swiftly frees himself before Kirishima arrives and tries attacking Shigaraki. The other students quickly go help Asui and Mineta, while Bakugo, who's restrained Kurojuri, mockingly says his body works how he thought, only certain parts of him can turn into a misty warp gate, and the fog covers his actual body, so if he was completely made of mist, physical attacks wouldn't be able to touch him, but he admitted their attack was close last time. Nomu slowly frees himself from the portal and grows back the limbs destroyed by Todoroki's ice, shocking everyone. Shigaraki says they should free their exit now, and Nomu rushes towards Bakugo. All Might swiftly shields Bakugo from the attack, after which Shigaraki declares that he's mad at this world that decides what's good or bad. Kirishima says they can back All Might up since it's a 3v5 and they already know Kurojuri's weakness. However, All Might says it's fine and that they should just watch a pro as he gives it everything he's got. As the villains get ready, All Might braces himself and remarks that it's true that he only has a minute left. His power has been declining faster than he expected, but he must do this because he's the symbol of peace. Shigaraki stops just short of the children, stunned before All Might and Nomu rush towards each other, and they start rapidly fighting each other, causing everyone around them to be blown back by the impact. Midoriya watches in shock and realizes he's not just fighting randomly, every single hit is more than 100% of his power. All Might punches Nomu away and declares that a hero can always break out of a tough spot before slamming Nomu down. He lands down and asks Nomu if he's heard of the words, "Go beyond plus ultra," before punching Nomu into the sky, flinging him out of USJ and into the sky. The fight shakes the entire building and the students happily cheer for All Might as Kirishima mutters that All Might just nullified Nomu's shock absorption, and Bakugo questions if that means he rushed at Nomu so fast he couldn't regenerate. As the smoke clears, All Might admits he really has gotten weaker since in his prime. 5 hits would have been enough, but it took more than 300 hits. Now he realizes he's out of time and tells the villains he's sure they want to end this as soon as possible, hearing which Shigaraki slowly mutters that he cheated. A thug warns Yaoyorozu and Jiro to not use their quirks if they don't want him to kill Kaminari. Jiro admits they completely let down their guards and this guy ambushed them after they made them think they'd gotten all of them. He says he doesn't want to kill an electric type like him, but it looks like he'll have to. Yaoyorozu realizes he's the guy who was messing with their communications. He starts walking and warns them to not move a muscle. Jiro says electric types like him and Kaminari are born winners since even if they don't become a hero, there are a ton of jobs they could do. Yaoyorozu realizes Jiro can attack without moving as soon as she gets her plug in as Jiro's jack slowly worms its way down behind her leg. However, the man raises his hand at Kaminari and tells them to give it up, questioning if they thought he wouldn't notice. Jiro retracts it as he says a kid's naive thinking only works on dumb adults and novice heroes shouldn't make light of hostages, but if they don't put up a fight, he'll let this kid go. He slowly steps towards them and warns them to not move. Meanwhile, Shigaraki wonders if he was lied to since All Might hasn't gotten weaker at all. Bro's overpowered monster got wrecked. All Might questions if he's not coming to get him, and Todoroki says there's no reason for them to fight. However, Midoriya realizes All Might is bluffing and that him reverting to his normal form is almost lost in the cloud of dust, but he can see the steam that comes out when he transforms. All Might asks if they aren't coming, but Kurogiri whispers to Shigaraki that he can tell All Might has definitely weakened from the fight and some of the other thugs are getting up as well. There's still 2 to 3 minutes left until reinforcements arrive, so they can take him down if they try. Bakugo, Kirishima, and Todoroki get ready to fight the thugs to take some weight off of All Might's shoulders as Shigaraki agrees with Kurogiri and rushes towards All Might with him. Stunned, Midoriya charges towards them by using one for all on his legs and tells them both to get away from All Might. Shigaraki gets ready to use his decaying quirk on Midoriya through Kurogiri's portal, but his hand suddenly gets shot. Aida announces that he has returned with reinforcements as Principal Nezu declares that he brought everyone who was available. The pro heroes swiftly start taking the thugs down as Snipe shoots Shigaraki's arms and legs and continues shooting, but Kurogiri hurriedly covers him with his mist and they both disappear. As the pros quickly get to work, Midoriya, who is lying on the ground, frustratingly mutters that he wasn't able to do anything. However, as All Might is transforming to his normal form, he says that isn't true because if it wasn't for those few seconds he bought him, he would have been killed. Midoriya starts crying and happily says he's glad he's okay. The teachers mutter that they can't believe they let the villains escape after such a big show of trespassing, so Nezu says they must keep the students safe. Kirishima rushes towards Midoriya to help him up, hearing which All Might remarks that he's glad he's concerned for his friend, but he's going to see him. However, before Kirishima can reach him, Cementos forms a wall in front of Kirishima and asks him to gather the students at the gate to make sure everyone is uninjured, as it's revealed that he can manipulate the cement he touches like clay. All Might admits he would have gotten killed if he didn't act recklessly. That's how strong the enemy was. Meanwhile, Shigaraki and Kurogiri appear in a bar and Shigaraki tells his master he was wrong, but a voice says they just underestimated the heroes. Shigaraki remembers a kid who was as fast as All Might and frustratingly says they might have been able to kill him if it wasn't for All Might. The voice assures him it was not futile and tells Shigaraki to gather the elite so that next time they strike, they can show the world that they are not to be feared. An investigator counts the children and confirms that they're all here other than Midoriya. Asui asks about Aizawa, so he says he has committed fractures in both arms and a facial fracture, but there doesn't seem to be brain damage. 13 has also been treated and her back will heal over time. All Might will also survive since Recovery Girl's treating will be enough to cure him. Same goes for Midoriya. He tells them to head back to their classroom now and leaves the rest of his colleagues since he has some business to deal with in the nurse's room. Tsukachi learns that the officers have captured Nomu and asks Nezu if they can check the entire school, so he cheerily agrees. In the nurse's office, All Might admits he can't scold Midoriya this time and reveals that the time he can spend in his hero form has shortened, so he hopes he still has at least an hour. Tsukachi enters, so Midoriya hurriedly asks if it's fine to see him in this form, but All Might says it's fine because this is his closest friend on the force, Tsukachi. He hurriedly asks Tsukachi if the students, Aizawa and 13, are fine. Tsukachi assures him that everyone is safe and admits if it wasn't for them, the students would be in danger. However, All Might says the villains are dumb since they expose the students to the danger adults constantly face. He declares that this class is strong and they will grow into powerful heroes.